Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema. Sit down first and foremost. I'm probably trying to keep this as quick as I can because I feel like absolute garbage. Went away for the weekend, went down to Florida to visit a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a long time. Just get away. I got a lot going on when I'm up here in the north, and great. It was an awesome weekend, nice little getaway, something I totally needed. But naturally, coming home, sinuses blew up, man. I feel like trash. But it is very dark, apparently rainy, and very early on a Wednesday morning. And I want to get in and I want to get out so I can go back to sleep because I'm struggling. So bear with me as we get ready to dive into the only thing that we could be diving into. Dark and early, and today rainy on a Wednesday morning. So let's not waste any time. Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Moon Knight, Episode 2, Summon the Suit. And I gotta tell you, man, suit summoning we get in this episode, and it's so freaking enjoyable. I'm really digging the crap out of this show. I mean, and so much of it just stems from Oscar Isaac's performance, which he just continues to just hit you with like an onslaught of acting. You know what I mean, man? Like, if you enjoyed his performance in the first episode, you're really going to enjoy his performance in the second episode. Now, for me personally, I didn't think this episode hit quite as hard, and I think that kind of stems from our creatives. I think what we got from series creator and lead writer Jeremy Slater in that first episode, just something about the writing and the way the episode was structured just popped a little bit more than this one did. Same from behind the camera. What Mohamed Diab did in that first episode, again, I thought just packed a little bit more of a punch than what we get from Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead in this episode. And that doesn't mean to say that, Moorhead and, writer this time around, Michael Castelline, and, other director Justin Benson, it's not to say that any of them did anything bad. It just, this episode didn't quite pack the same punch. However, it does allow Isaac to do more than what he did in that first episode. I think, like I said, I think the punch is a little bit more there because you're really living with Steven in that first episode, and you're seeing Isaac deal with this idea of, like, his mind breaking and realizing that there is this alternate personality that Steven has going on. This episode brings those two personalities face to face way more than the first episode. And I think you lose a little bit of the magic in the editing and the way the episode was structured, right? That was the thing that I loved, was that Steven would leave and then Steven would come back, but we wouldn't see what happened, and you'd be living in the chaos that Marc had created. And you don't really get that in this episode, but it allows Oscar Isaac to do, I don't want to say bigger things, because I think the acting was definitely on a different level in the first episode, where what he's asked to do here isn't quite as, like I said, punchy. But what he is able to do in this episode is just mind-boggling. And I was reading an article right before I sat down talking about how he kind of jumps between these two characters. And when you watch the show, specifically because of the way they use reflections and mirrors, you could imagine that they would shoot takes multiple times to allow Isaac to be Steven and then allow Isaac to be Marc. And director Mohamed Diab confirmed that that's how it started. Had to be on different days. And Diab kept pushing him, and finally Isaac got to a point where he felt comfortable enough with both characters that he could just slip in and out of it. And I think that allows directors Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson a little bit more freedom, because from a creative standpoint, because you're not necessarily having to just do these static cuts so that you can swap, the versions that Isaac is portraying. If he's able to do both in the same camera shot, you can literally be on Steven and then take a 2-second pan a little bit over to where the reflection is, and in that 2 seconds, you just see Isaac go from, and Benson and Moorhead even said this, when he's Steven, he's quieter, he's smaller. And when he flips to Marc, he becomes taller, broader, stronger. And you see all of that in real time. And that stuff is just crazy. And that's why Oscar Isaac brings so much to this role, because the ability to do stuff like that is just wild. I mean, you know me. Anytime I've been in a movie where there's multiple personalities, most recently you're talking like Split, right? Where like you can just see someone like James McAvoy going in and out of these personalities, and you're just like, that's so impressive. And to see Isaac do it here and add in the combination of the craftsmanship of just taking a camera pan or whatever to allow it all to happen in camera in real time is so cool. And then from a story standpoint, like I said, while this episode I don't think quite packs the same punch, I do think it starts to explore the mental illness stuff. There's some real direct mental illness like moments in the episode where you're like, they're just taking this head on, and I love that because mental health is so important. And to see a show that can kind of dissect that a little bit while also being a comic book show is a lot of fun, and it's cool to watch. But I mean, you're seeing them do that. You're seeing Spector and Grant for the first time start to communicate to each other so that Steven can start to understand a little bit more of what's going on. And I really dig all that stuff and how that eventually plays into being Khonshu's avatar in this episode. They took a comic element and did something with it that was just so cool. And it's one of those things, I talk about this all the time with Kevin Feige. The adaptation of the material is so crucial. And the thing that they take out of the comics and twist it and change it to use it in the show just as marvelous. Like the concept behind what they're doing is really cool, and it's a neat way to adapt a piece of material from the comic book and change it so that it can enhance what you're watching on screen. So everything that's going on with Spector, everything that's going on with Grant in this episode is fantastic. I love Isaac's performance. Like I said, getting to see more of that in and out was really a lot of fun, and you're starting to understand more about Moon Knight and Khonshu and how all of this is working, where like as pieces of information are being revealed to the audience, they're doing it in a way where it's being revealed to Steven. So it allows you to keep some secrets, but start to understand some more. And obviously, if you have comic background, you're really able to kind of piece some of this stuff together and see what they're starting to build. And I think while this one might be a little bit of a step back from the first episode, I think it's continuing to set up the fact that this show has the ability to get better, hopefully. Now, that being said, it's not just the Oscar Isaac show. You got Ethan Hawke in here, who, was phenomenal last week and gives us a lot more about Arthur Harrow and how all of this stuff is connecting. And while it's a smaller run for Hawke, I think, this episode than even the first episode, the moments that we get with him, specifically with him and Isaac, I really dig what he's doing. And knowing that Hawke was kind of out on superhero movies, and it was Oscar Isaac that told him, like, come on, Ethan, come along for this ride. Like, thank God, man, because that dude is one of the best actors in Hollywood. I've been saying that for years. And even when you're getting him just for a sliver of time, he brings so much to the role. And like I said, where he falls in this episode and what we learn about Harrow and how that ties into the overall Moon Knight and kind of Egyptian story that we have going on here, I really dug what we got from him. Now, this episode also introduces a new character, or at least physically introduces a new character this episode, as we get to see for the first time in the flesh May Calamaway, who does some it's so, like, she, again, someone else who's on screen very small amount of time, but what she gives Layla really pops, man. Like, it was one of those where, last week we just got her on the phone. This week she pops up physically, and you're able to see what Calamaway brings to this. You know what I mean? Like, she's awesome. Like, didn't take very long to kind of grip her hooks into me and pull me in, where I was like, all right, yeah, give me more of this Layla and Marc and Steven thing going on. Like, that whatever's going on with that triangle, I'm here for it, man. And the thing that I love about what we get with Layla in this episode is it ties back deeper into that history of Marc. We get to learn some more things and kind of have some better understanding of what's going on from Calamaway's perspective and what she does performance-wise. I mean, talk about playing confused. She plays confused quite well, but also kind of has this concern and intrigue into what's going on. Like, there's a while where it's just like, I'm not buying it, and then it's like, all right, well, something is going on here. And I think Layla could be a character that really helps us kind of discern the differences between Marc and Steven and what's going on inside of his head. And outside of that, when you look at the action, right, the thing that we were kind of lacking a little bit last week was action. We don't get Moon Knight till the last 30 seconds or so. We definitely get a little bit more Moon Knight action in this one. Still kind of minimal. It's a lot of Oscar Isaac, not a lot of the suit, even though this episode is called Summon the Suit. But when we do get to finally dive in to that Moon Knight stuff, man, is it always awesome. I mean, visually, it's one of those things where, like, the one thing that we didn't get in the Batman were any of those classic wide-angle shots where you can just see Batman moving across the rooftops. And we get some of that here. And the reason I bring up Batman is because, of course, is the fact that there are a lot of similarities between Batman and Moon Knight. And visually, our directors this episode give us stuff that really kind of reminds you of things that you've seen with the Bat. And I loved watching him move across rooftops and getting into the fights that he gets into here. The choreography is pretty tight. Again, small, but cool. And the way they use the comic stuff, specifically the Moon Knight stuff in this episode, like, I'm just excited for what we have to yet to see, basically. You know what I mean? Like, they're making you salivate, man. They're setting the table where, like, this thing could end up being really big by the end. But right now, we're kind of on a slow uphill build, and I'm digging it. I'm digging it so far. I don't think the second episode quite matches the first, but I'm digging what we're doing. And then, of course, F. Murray Abraham, who's voicing Khonshu. Minimal stuff here this episode, but just his voice. His voice is so perfect for the visual of Khonshu, and I love seeing as much Khonshu as we're seeing in this show. It's all really cool. So those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on episode 2, Summon the Suit. While we do summon up the suit, still a lot of Oscar Isaac, but that's okay because the performance is freaking wild. So let's get the C-Maniac meter up. Like I said, what we're getting from Isaac is unbelievable. And reading an article where you're finding out that he's doing all of this stuff in one take and just slipping in between these two characters, and not just from a voice perspective, but like physicality and body, like the way you see him go small to big. It's like he's two completely different people, and to find out that he's doing that in camera, God, man, this dude's so freaking talented, dude. But he's absolutely phenomenal this episode. Ethan Hawke we get a little bit of, but I'm more intrigued about Arthur Harrow and how they're going to use the character and the things that we learn about him. We learn some really interesting stuff, and it solidifies the connection between these two characters on opposite ends of things in ways that I think are again, setting up stuff that could be really cool down the road. The introduction of May Calamaway's Layla physically in this episode was awesome. I think she can bring a lot to this role for someone that's a fresh face. I thought she popped on screen, really draws your attention, and is playing the I'm concerned for this person that I used to care about, while also being wildly confused at what the hell is going on. Really, really well. Great stuff from F. Murray Abraham every time he's asked to do voice work. Anybody else that pops up in the episode, pretty much minuscule. It's really those four folks that are on screen being voiced, and the acting is just popping. The story this time around, not as good, I don't think, as the first one, but I think we're building to something that's gonna be freaking awesome. And visually, I mean, the show just pops. The visual effects are pretty fantastic. I thought there was some wonky CG in the first ep. I didn't feel any wonky CG in this one, and the way the suit just materializes and the Moon Knight stuff, it's really, really cool. So not quite as strong as last week. I'm going to go 3.5 C-Maniacs out of 5 this week. Rock solid episode. I think it's totally in line, but you can definitely feel how you were missing a little bit of Jeremy Slater and Mohamed Diab in this episode in particular. But there you go, man. 3.5 out of 5 C-Maniacs. That sure as hell ain't bad. You know, it ain't the 4, but ain't nothing to be mad at 2 episodes in on Moon Knight, man. I'm really digging this show. I dig what they're building, and I dig how they're adapting the material from the comics. It's been really cool. So those are all my thoughts, man. Really, really solid second episode. Now I want to know what you're thinking. Where did this episode fall for you in comparison to episode number 1? What things popped? What did you like? Did you like getting more of Marc and Steven on screen at the same time interacting with each other? Do you like the way that they're playing with mirrors and reflections and different materials that you can get a reflection in? There's one shot where, Marc is in like a very small sliver of something that can be reflective, and like the way the movement of what's happening in that small section matches up with what's going on in camera and in story. Just really cool stuff, man. So, like, is that stuff popping for you? What's standing out? Keep it spoiler free. If you haven't seen the episode, when are you watching the episode? Did we get you pumped for this one? Anything, man, you're thinking, good, bad, indifferent, on Moon Knight episode 2. Summon the suit down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man anytime, talking movies, TV, trailer reactions every Wednesday morning while Moon Knight is on. We gonna be here with that non-spoiler for you. You haven't, you want to? Well, hey, come, join C-Maniac Nation simply by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts, and until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema, sit down. I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.